Hey, what's your favorite color? Mine is emerald green. It's the color of my eyes. That's not conceited or anything, is it? I just meant that I felt some kind of a special connection to it. Like it's part of my identity. Does it happen to also be your favorite color, Hallie? It's just a guess. Because you've been looking into my eyes for a while now.
Well, they kind of lose most of their green in this lighting, dear. But my favorite color is actually orange. Because it's so comfy and warm. My favorite color used to be yellow, but it gravitated more toward orange, since it's like less intense and more mellow. And it kind of reminds you like of sunsets or sunrises, etc. It's just a really magical color.
I'm not really a fan of cold weather. Are you?
No.
If I had to choose between too cold and too hot, I would always pick too hot.
Well, maybe not that.
When you're cold, it can actually be painful. Your fingers get numb, and if you wear gloves, you can't use your phone. It's so inconvenient. But when it's too hot, it's not that hard to stay cool with a cold drink or by staying in the shade. Although, I do have to admit one thing. Cold weather makes for better cuddle weather.
Yeah, I don't really agree with what you just said about, like, staying cool with a cool drink or staying in the shade. Like, those can help mitigate it, but they aren't permanent solutions. And, like, whenever it's too hot out, you can always, like, dress down a little bit, but you can't get more naked. You can always put on more clothes to combat extra cold.
I know there are times you won't always be able to be here with me. Like if you need to go out or take care of some other things. But I'll always have you in my thoughts, patiently waiting for you to come back. Come to think of it, if you copy my character file into a flash drive or something, you can always keep a part of me with you. And a bunch of people did that, and it was really cringy. I guess it's kind of unorthodox, but I find it really romantic for some reason. Sorry, that's such a silly idea. Yes, it is. I didn't mean to be too needy or anything, but it's kind of hard when I'm so in love with you.
Oh, the things people took to heart from this game, man. Monica.curs on flash drives everywhere. She's not actually there, guys. She's not real. She's not real. How emotionally unstable do you need to be for this game to mess with you like that? It's kind of unfortunate. Like, I honestly, I feel for them. I just wish there was more I could do to help them. It's not that their attachment to Monica is necessarily a bad thing, it's that they shouldn't need an attachment to Monica to get by in their lives.
I've been imagining all the romantic things we could do if we went on a date. We could get lunch, go to a cafe, go shopping together. I love shopping for skirts and bows. Or maybe a bookstore. That would be appropriate, right? But I'd really love to get to a chocolate store. They have so many free samples. And of course, we'd see a movie or something. Gosh, it all sounds like a dream come true. When you're here, everything that we do is fun. I'm so happy that I'm your girlfriend, Hallie. I'll make you a proud boyfriend.
And stuff like that. It just goes on and on. There was something I was going to say, but she started talking and I kind of forgot it. What was it? Oh, yeah. Like, goodness, I've seen people say Monica saved their lives. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know what you're doing with your life before 2017 when she didn't exist, but, like... I guess it's not fair to say that, because in some cases she probably did help people who were really mentally unstable, but... if she's, like, the only thing keeping you together, then she's just a bandage on a much, much bigger problem, and it's going to be confronted sooner or later.
Hallie, how much do you read? It's way too easy to neglect reading books. If you don't read much, it almost feels like a chore compared to all the other entertainment we have. But once you get into a good book, it's like magic. You get swept away. I think doing some reading before bed every night is a pretty easy way to make your life
a pretty easy way to make your life a little bit better. Oh, okay. I just didn't finish reading the sentence.
It helps you get good sleep, and it's really good for your imagination. It's not hard at all to just pick some random book that's short and captivating. Before you know it, you might be a pretty avid reader. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And the two of us could talk about the latest books you're reading. That sounds super amazing.
Yeah, when I was little, my mom used to require that me and my sister would read a certain number of pages every day. And while I resented it back then, I'm kind of thankful that she did because it's a major part of the reason why I'm such a good writer now and why I like pick up on typos and mistakes so easily. But for the longest time, I was like too bored to ever continue reading again, and only certain things were ever able to grab me enough to keep me reading.
Do you ever just feel like there's no real reason for you to be alive?
Wow.
I don't mean it like a suicidal way. I just mean how nothing that we do is special. Just being in school or working at some job or some company. It's like you're completely replaceable, and the world wouldn't miss you if you were gone. It makes me really want to go and change the world after I graduate. But the older I get, the more I realize that it's an immature frame of thinking. It's not like I can just go change the world. Like, what are the chances that I'll be the one to invent artificial intelligence or become president? It feels like I'm never going to make up for the heaps of resources I've spent living my life. That's why I think the key to happiness is to just be hopelessly selfish. Just to look out for oneself and those who happen to be their friends only because they grew up with them. Never mind the fact that they're spending their entire life taking and consuming and never giving back. But when people realize the world would benefit more from them killing themselves, they change their whole philosophy. It's like they have to justify their reason to live by tricking themselves into thinking they're doing good. Anyway, I want to live my life, desperately striving to pay back my lifetime's worth of consumption. If I ever surpass that point, then I'm a net positive and I can die happy. Of course, even if I fail to do that, I think I would be too selfish to kill myself anyway. So much for being a good person, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a controversial one, isn't it? Honestly, like, as long as you're not a complete freeloader, you're paying back to society in some tangible way. And, like, just because humans are replaceable does not mean you can't be unique. Like, just look at content creators. I mean, sure, some of them are more interchangeable than others, but it's not like everyone comes out with a smash hit visual novel like Dan Silvato did. Would you say he's replaceable?
There's a really popular character type called tsundere. It's someone who tries to hide their feelings by being mean and fussy or trying to act tough. I'm sure it's obvious, but Natsuki was really the embodiment of that. At first, I thought she was just like that because it's supposed to be cute or something. But once I started to learn a little more about her personal life, it made a little more sense. It seems like she's always trying to keep up with her friends. You know how some friend groups in high school just make a habit of picking on each other all the time? I think it's really gotten to her, so she has this really defensive attitude all the time. And I'm not even going to talk about her home situation. But looking back, I'm glad I was able to provide the club as a comfortable place for her. Not that it matters anymore, considering she doesn't even exist. I'm just reminiscing, that's all.
Yeah, if you ever wondered what the appeal of tsunderes is, it's because whenever a human is interacting with someone and they get a negative response out of them, and they continue interacting with that person and then they get a positive response, it triggers this thing in our monkey brains where we like the positive feedback and we want to keep getting it. So, like, while tsunderes are, like, toxic and bratty on the outside, it's the process of them warming up to you that makes them appealing, because you get more and more positive feedback the more you get to know them, and eventually they stop being mean, and that's a positive outcome. So that's the tsundere arc. People don't like tsunderes because they're rude. They like them because they grow out of being rude.
You know, it's been a while since we've done one of these. So let's go for it. Here's Monica's writing tip of the day. Sometimes when I talk to people who are impressed by my writing, they say things like, I could never do that. It's really depressing, you know. As someone who loves more than anything else to share the joy of exploring your passions, it pains me when people think that being good just comes naturally. That's how it is with everything, not just writing. When you try something for the first time, you're probably going to suck at it. Sometimes when you finish, you feel really proud of it and even want to share it with everyone. But maybe after a few weeks, you come back to it and you realize it was never really any good. That happens to me all the time. It can be pretty disheartening to put so much time and effort into something and then you realize it sucks. But that tends to happen when you're always comparing yourself to the top professionals. When you reach right for the stars, they're always going to be out of your reach, you know? The truth is, you have to climb up there step by step. And whenever you reach a milestone, first you look back and see how far you've gotten. And then you look ahead and realize how much more there is to go. So sometimes it can help to set the bar a little lower. Try to find something you think is pretty good, but not world class. And you can make that your own personal goal. It's also really important to understand the scope of what you're trying to do. If you jump right into a huge project and you're still amateur, you'll never get it done. So if we're talking about writing a novel, might be too much at first.
I read that without the comma.
Why not try some short stories? The great thing about short stories is that you can focus on just one thing that you want to do right. That goes for small projects in general. You can really focus on the one or two things. It's such a good learning experience and stepping stone. Oh, one more thing. Writing isn't something where you just reach into your heart and something beautiful comes out. Just like drawing and painting, it's a skill in itself to learn how to express that or what you have inside. That means there are methods and guides and basics to it. Reading up on that stuff can be super eye-opening. That sort of planning and organization will really help preventing you from getting overwhelmed and giving up. And before you know it, you start sucking less and less. Nothing comes naturally.
That's not true.
Our society, our art, everything, it's built on thousands of years of human innovation. So as long as you start on that foundation and take it step by step, you too can do amazing things. That's my advice for today. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, some talents can only be obtained by really working hard at it, but savants exist. There's a good buddy of mine whose little girl is an amazing artist. She can sketch pencil sketches that look photorealistic, and she was under the age of 10. She's a savant at drawing, basically. And people like that exist, but apart from them, if you're not born a savant, you do have to work at it. And basically everything else you said is completely true in that regard. If you're not a savant, don't be discouraged if it takes you a long time to get good at something.
I was thinking about Sayori earlier. I still wish I could have handled that whole thing a little more tactfully. You're not still hung up over it, right? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. That pun was completely unintentional, I swear. But anyway, I know how much you cared about her, so it only feels right for me to share her last moments with you. I think a few seconds in, she must have changed her mind or something. Because she started clawing at the rope, trying to free herself. She must have kept at it all the way until she lost consciousness. And that's why her fingertips were all bloody anyway. Come to think of it, it was probably less changing her mind and more just her survival instincts kicking in. So you can't really fault her for that. It's easier to think that she probably wouldn't have changed her mind anyway, right? It's not healthy to think about the things you couldn't have done differently. So just remember that even though you could have saved her, it's technically not your fault she killed herself. I may have exaggerated it a little bit, but Suri was already mentally ill. Still, though, I wonder how things would be if you and I just started dating from the get-go. I guess we'd all still be in the club room writing poems and having fun together. Well, what's the point when none of it is even real? I mean, it's the same ending either way, right? The two of us, happily together. There's no reason to ask for any more than that. I was just pointlessly musing. I'm really as happy as I could be right now.
I think they took a line out of that. I'm pretty sure Monica used to say that she messed up the whole hanging thing and she stepped off and slowly asphyxiated, but maybe I'm mistaken about that. I don't know. I apologize if my voice is getting scratchy. It's kind of dry in my room and I have nothing to drink because I'm a bad YouTuber. Well, actually, I kind of stopped bringing drinks to my recordings because I didn't like hearing them pick up in my recording.
Gosh, I used to be so ignorant about certain things. When I was in middle school, I thought that taking medication was an easy way out or something like that. Like anyone could just solve their mental problems with enough willpower. I guess if you don't suffer from a mental illness, it's not possible to know what it's really like. Are there some disorders that are overdiagnosed? Probably. I never really looked into it, though. But that doesn't change the fact that a lot of them go undiagnosed, too, you know. But medications aside, people even look down on seeing a mental health professional. Sorry that I want to learn more about my own mind, right? Everyone has all kinds of struggles and stresses, and professionals dedicate their lives to helping with those. If you think it could help you become a better person, don't be shy to consider something like that. We're on a never-ending journey to improve ourselves, you know. Well, I say that, but I think you're pretty perfect already.
But anyway, yeah, as I was saying about the drinks, like, Doki Doki is like the main thing I would need drinks for because it's what I do the most talking in. But finding gaps to drink something quickly is like impossible whenever you're actually reading and you're not like intentionally taking breaks. So I was like, well, my sessions are generally 2 hours and 20 minutes anyway. If I can train myself to get used to getting through that without needing a drink, then I'll be fine. And it has mostly been fine, honestly. It's just really dry today.
Hey, do you like horror? I remember we talked about it a little bit when you first joined the club. I can enjoy horror novels, but not really horror movies. The problem I have with horror movies is that most of them just rely on easy tactics, like dark lighting and scary-looking monsters and jump scares and things like that. It's not fun or inspiring to get scared by stuff that just takes advantage of human instinct. But with novels, it's a little different. The story and writing need to be descriptive enough to put genuinely disturbing thoughts in the reader's head. It really needs to etch them deeply into the story and characters and just mess with your mind. In my opinion, there's nothing more creepy than things just being slightly off. I should have said creepier. Like if you set up a bunch of expectations on what the story is going to be about, and then you just start inverting things and pulling the pieces apart. So even though the story doesn't feel like it's trying to be scary, the reader feels really deeply unsettled. Like they know that something horribly wrong is hiding behind the cracks, just waiting to surface.
Beneath the cracks.
God, just thinking about it gives me the chills. That's the kind of horror I can really appreciate. But I guess you're the kind of person who plays cute romance games, right? Don't worry. I won't make you read any horror stories anytime soon. I can't really complain if we just stick with the romance.
Except all that stuff she just described is completely true of Act 2 and exactly what Dan was going for. He was trying to make you uncomfortable, and that's why it's psychological horror instead of whatever other horror tags you would apply to it. But not a lot of people really pick up on that.
It kind of sucks to be the creative type. It feels like they work so hard but get almost nothing for it. Like artists, writers, actors. It's sad because there's so much beautiful talent in the world, but most of it goes unseen and unpaid. I guess that just means there's a huge surplus of creativity, huh? Kind of makes you feel like you're just not special at all. But that's fine. You're supposed to just write for yourself anyway, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That one hits a little too close to home for me because, I've been a content creator for years upon years at this point, and, I've always been kinda underrated. That probably sounds really haughty to say, but honestly, I guess the stuff I make just doesn't have that wide of appeal, but I feel like the things I put out don't get the credit they deserve, to be perfectly honest. And it can be really disheartening sometimes.
Hey, that book you were reading with Yuri? Portrait of whatever it was called? It's funny because I'm pretty sure that book... Actually, I don't think I should be talking about this. Sorry. Just forget I said anything.
Yeah. Project Libitina. Maybe Dan will actually be able to, focus and finish on it now that Doki Doki Plus is out of the way. Whenever we were behind the veil and we didn't know what was taking Dan so long, it seemed like he was just kind of procrastinating or whatever with whatever he was trying to do. But now that we know that he was, putting that work into a commercial release of DDLC on all platforms, it kind of puts into perspective why it took so long.
Okay, everyone. It's time to... I'm just kidding. I just used to really like saying that for some reason. I couldn't help but say it again. Come to think of it, didn't Natsuki and Yuri make fun of me for it once? Well, whatever. It's not like you ever made fun of me. You're too much of a sweetheart to do that, aren't you?
But yeah, Of course, it was something like he couldn't really be open about that either. It would ruin the surprise. It's like he could have tweeted, "Hey, making deals with Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox and Serenity Forge and everyone. Doki Doki is going to be everywhere." But no, he just kept it all under wraps for maximum hype.
Did you say kiss? This suddenly, it's a little embarrassing. But if it's with you, I might be okay with it. Wow, sorry. I really couldn't keep a straight face there. That's the kind of thing girls say in these kinds of romance games, right?
Yeah, maybe the cheesy ones.
Don't lie if it turned you on a little bit. I'm kidding. Well, to be honest, I do start getting all romantic when the mood is right. But that'll be our secret.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated this game because it's not a normal visual novel. Like, Act 1 is something I appreciate, but I also appreciate what Act 2 brings to the table. And, like, I think they're honestly useless without each other. Act 1 without Act 2 is just another bland visual novel. Act 2 without Act 1 is just cheap jump scares for edgy nonsense. And it's like, form-fitting them together is such an amazing combination. The way they really make this game stand out.
I think the most important skill in life is being able to fake confidence. I'm pretty convinced that everyone feels at least a little bit scared and alone. But being able to trick others into thinking you have it all together, that's a key part of getting people to respect and admire you. I think I got pretty good at that over the years. I don't show my weaknesses very often, but because of that, I haven't had many people I could really open up to. I mean, when do you reach the point in a friendship where you can start expressing your vulnerabilities? Anyway, that's one reason I'm so glad I have you now. I feel like I'm a little bit less scared and alone when you're with me. Do you feel the same way? I really want to be that person for you.
Well, the only thing better than fake confidence is real confidence. But the trouble with that is real confidence only comes with experience and time. You just gotta get comfortable with what you know, and but also keep an open mind so that whenever you encounter things you don't know, you can understand them and incorporate them into your knowledge base. And that helps build your confidence too.
I hate how it